And as you can see, it boots up really quickly. That's one of the benefits of Chrome. It doesn't have a whole lot to boot up, so it's ready to go pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and sign in for the first time. So I'm just going to select my wireless network here. Next up, we just need to accept the terms and conditions. All right, so the next step is to download all of the updates to make sure that you have the latest version of the Chrome OS. All right, so once all those updates are loaded, we can go ahead and log into our Google account. Now it wants me to pick my picture, and I'm going to choose my profile picture here and click OK. Alright, so that's all there is to it. Definitely one of the quickest setups I've ever had for any laptop. Of course, there is less involved. All you had to do was sign into your wireless network, update, sign into your Google account, and you're good. So here we have in our lower left corner here our dock. So basically this is Chrome, so we can launch our Chrome browser, we can launch email, Google Search, Google Drive, YouTube, as well as getting started, which will tell us a little bit about how to use the Chrome operating system. We also have our apps here, so we can have an app drawer, and which you can scroll through here, left and right. Very similar or very evocative of the Android experience. Again, this is not Android, so don't think it's Android, but it's got a very similar user interface. So again, all of these are apps, but really they just launch into the Google Chrome browser. So for example, if we go to Gmail, launches Chrome, takes us to our Gmail account. And since I've logged in already, everything is synced, including all my bookmarks, even my extensions. So for example, Ad Blocker has already been installed on here for me. Also, if we launch Google Calendar, again, it launches us into Google Chrome. If we launch Google Search, takes us to Search. If we launch YouTube, takes us to a tab in Chrome for YouTube. So you get the idea here. It gives you a interface very evocative of a desktop, but really it's just operating within Chrome, and you can maximize it if you want. So you can get a full screen, or you can get kind of a desktop viewer. They also have some controls up here to help you manage your windows. So for example, we have left justify, right justify, or minimize. If you do the right justify, bounces it to the right of the screen, left bounces it to the left of the screen. So it just helps you to manage some of the windowing. Now if we close all the windows, you can see we have something that looks very similar to a standard desktop, and we can even change the wallpaper by double tap or using two fingers to tap on the trackpad. So we can go ahead and set wallpaper here. So we can choose basically a bank background, we can choose a landscape, we can choose some nature shots, urban shots, or we can customize, and from here we can choose a file. So if we go to choose a file, you'll see we have two destinations we can pick from. We can go to Google Drive, or we can go to download. So there's a folder here for downloading files. You can also, if you insert an SD card, that will appear here as well. Now if you look closely in the lower left corner, when you hover your mouse over any of these tabs or icons or web apps, whatever you want to call them, you can see they kind of lift up and they highlight for you. And if you launch any of them, so let's launch Google Search, you can see it just brings up Chrome. So it brings up search in Chrome. We also have YouTube. You can see now we have a little light indicator just under that icon, very similar to Mac OS X. Now in the lower right corner, we have our system tray here. So you have all of your quick settings such as volume control, Bluetooth, your network settings. You can also sign in or out of your Google account, and you can also jump to your settings here. You can also power on and off, so you have a quick power toggle here. You can also lock the screen, and you also have your help options here, which again takes you right to Chrome. So if you click on, let's say, settings here, this also launches all of your settings into the Chrome browser. So all of your settings are actually accessible through Chrome itself. So this is not a separate settings panel, this is right in Chrome. So in fact, if you look in the address bar, you'll see Chrome // Chrome / settings. So that's one way of getting right to it. So anyway, we have our Wi-Fi settings here. We can add additional connections. We can add proxy connections. We can control our extensions. So we can add, you can see that all of those were preloaded just because I logged into my Google account. You can also control things such as your trackpad speed, search control options. So you can change your search options to live search, even Bing and Yahoo, which would be kind of ironic on a Google Chromebook. You can also change your users here. So you have a lot of options here, although there's not a tremendous amount to pick from. Now if you take your cursor to the launcher and use two fingers on the trackpad to basically right-click on an item, you can see you have several options here. You can unpin them, you can open in a separate window, a separate tab, or you can hide it from the launcher. You can even maximize them to full screen. Now you can also move them around, so if you tap and hold on any one of them using one finger here, you can move them around in that launcher. Now if you go to more apps, you can also add more of these or some of these apps to the launcher. So for example, I use Google Play Music a lot. So if I basically use two fingers to right click. I can go ahead and pin that to the launcher, and you can see it's now added. Now, if you look at the web apps, you can see Google has already included quite a bit. So we have the web browser, email, YouTube, Google Search, Google Calendar, Scratchpad, which is actually kind of like a standalone app, but again, it's just a window within Chrome here. So for example, I can write a few notes here and it will sync to Google Docs for me so I can access it on other devices. If we go back here, we have Google Maps, which again just launches into the web browser, launches maps.google.com. Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, and Slides, which is the word processing apps. We have Google Plus for social networking. We have Google Hangouts. We have Files, which is our file manager here. Again, it launches into Google Chrome. We also have that Get Started tutorial, which will tell you a little more about Chrome, and you have Google Play Music, Google Play Books, Movies, Games, Calculator, and the camera, as well as something called Chrome Remote, which is a feature I'll have to demonstrate later. Right now it's in beta. So if you look at, for example, Google Play Music, you can see again, it's not quite like iTunes or anything like that. It launches into the web browser here. So here I have my entire music library, which is the same library I access on my Android devices. So for example, I can search for Coldplay up here. There you go. I can play it within my web browser. Now, as you can see, I have my media controls right here, which appear within the tab itself. So if I add another tab here, you can see I'm going to have to jump back to it to get to that. But I can also jump right back to the launcher. So if I go to Google Play Music, it takes me right to that tab. Now, you don't have to settle for the apps they've included. You can get more apps from Chrome itself. So you can go to the Chrome Web Store, and here you can search by categories. You can search what you've already installed. You can also see what's highlighted by the editors. So for example, I can search for Facebook here. And well, let's do Facebook, not books. So there we go, Facebook. We can add to Chrome, add. And there you go, it's installed, so I can launch Facebook, and again, it basically launches it as a tab. So if we go to my apps here, you'll now see Facebook among them. Now, the keyboard is also designed specifically for the Chromebook, although it's pretty familiar. So if you're used to using a Mac or PC, you're going to have a pretty familiar experience here. So you have the Control and Alt keys. You don't have the Windows key or the Command key from Apple. But you have similar functionality here. So for example, I tap the URL bar here and do Control A, it selects the text for me. I do Control X, it will cut it. Control V to paste it. And then you have all of these similar controls for underlining, bolding, Control Z to undo things. So pretty familiar overall. Now up top we have our function keys for the Chromebook. So for example, we have the back button for navigating back in the web history or forward. We also have a refresh button to refresh the page. We also have a full screen button, which full screens the web browser here. And we also have sort of a alt tab function here, so you can tab between all of your open windows. Now you also have your screen brightness controls here, so we can bring it all the way down or bring it all the way up. Volume controls, so we can mute it or increase volume or lower volume. Now in terms of audio quality, this does have a set of dual speakers here. So if let's go to my YouTube channel here.
And a 650M.
Now overall, the speakers are pretty loud, pretty clear, but there's not a lot of depth there. They're kind of muffled, it's kind of tinny, so it's not the best sounding speakers you're going to get, but again, it's a very thin, lightweight, portable, so it's better than I expected. Now in terms of the trackpad experience, it's actually pretty good and pretty familiar if you're a MacBook user. The experience is just about similar, so it's very precise, very accurate. So you have your multi-touch gestures, so you have two fingers for scrolling, you have two fingers for right-click. And that's about it. You don't have a lot of gestures here, but it works pretty well. You also have the left click and right click if you want, but I prefer to use the gesturing instead. Now the keyboard also feels pretty familiar if you're a MacBook user. There's a very little travel here to the keys, so it's not the best experience around, but it's kind of what you've come to expect with a very thin, low profile